Hello and welcome to the Female Founder Friday podcast with me, Lindsay White. I'm passionate about helping female entrepreneurs be great leaders, build high-performing teams, and create inspiring workplace cultures through innovative talent programs and practices. Because when people feel like they belong at work, they deliver their very best and businesses thrive. The Female Founder Friday podcast is all about connecting with the most incredible female entrepreneurs to talk about their journey to creating their own business, the mistakes they've made along the way, and how they view their own leadership. And I'm challenging all of my guests this season to take my leadership style quiz. And during each episode, we'll be digging into their leadership style and how it impacts the way they lead in their life and their business. And if you're interested in learning more about your leadership style and want some of my top tips to help you lead more effectively, you can take the quiz right now. Just check out the show notes or head over to highvoltageleadership.ca and click on the button at the top of the page that says Take the Quiz. Then you can share your results, connect with my guests, and join the conversation on Instagram by following me at highvoltleadership. All right, welcome to another episode of the Female Founder Friday podcast. I am thrilled today to have Emily here with me. We're going to have a great conversation. We already started off on the right foot even before we hit record, which is awesome. And I'm super excited to connect with you, to hear more about you, and to just dive into your story, your journey, and how you became a female founder. Tell us all about that.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Lindsay. I'm really excited to be on the show.
Yeah.
I came to being a female founder in a roundabout way, I'll say.
Love it.
I'm a lawyer by training. I have spent my career in-house doing work on teams as part of bigger organizations. I love that work. I've always thought of myself as a good intrapreneur, as it were, right? I like working within big organizations. And then three things happened in 2019. The first was that I got pregnant with baby number 2, and I was about to have 2 kids under 2 at the time.
Nice.
The second thing, and just by quick background, my career has been spent in social impact and philanthropy. And so corporate social impact in 2019 looked very different than when I embarked in that work in 2010.
Yeah.
It was becoming less of a nice to have and more of a need to have. And I looked around the room, as it were, and identified that there wasn't a firm that I could find that would help organizations that were really ambitious, that really wanted to move the needle on corporate social responsibility or family philanthropy in the ways that I had learned how to do it over the past decade before. There weren't a lot of people that you could engage.
Yeah.
And it felt like there was a market for a firm that that does what we call back of house social impact. So we're not marketing, we're not storytelling, we're not communicating. We are like in the weeds, fingernails dirty, doing the work of the work. So that was the second thing. And the third was that at that point in my career, I was really looking for my next chapter. I wanted another challenge. In my in-house role, I had done some incredible things I was really proud of, but didn't feel like the next decade would be as meteoric as the last. And felt like by starting my own thing, I could learn more, do more, grow more. And that's how it all started, and was really the beginning of Ethos Giving. And I joke that Ethos and my son are twins because they were born on the same day.
I love it. I love the synergy in that. That's just beautiful. Yeah, I hear from so many women on this show. I mean, often there is an inflection point in your career, especially if you're working in any kind of corporate role. And probably greater than half, that inflection point comes with baby number 1, particularly baby number 2. You really start to re-examine your relationship with your career at that point. Recognizing that motherhood is an important career. Let's be clear, that shit is work, right? That
Amen.
is hard. It is the hardest job we ever do, is to be a mom, 110%. So we realize that we have to connect to our careers in a different way. We don't want to give them up, but they're going to need to change because the needs of our family has changed and our needs change at the same time. So I love that was the catalyst for some reinvention for you.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely the situation for me and how this whole story started.
Yeah, and that they're twins. I like that. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about, what do you do at Ethos? What does that mean?
Yeah. So, in this world of social impact, which sort of means everything and nothing, depending on who you are and where you sit.
Right.
The the way that our firm differentiates is as follows. Philanthropy is not a new idea. Corporate social responsibility is not a new idea. There's been a lot of generosity coming from all sorts of incredible places for a long time.
Yeah.
The work that we're trying to do at Ethos, and certainly what I think is special about what we offer, is really helping organizations and or families or individuals who have a multitude of resources at their disposal deploy those effectively so that you maximize impact. And so just to give you an example, of course, there's philanthropy and money that can be donated to nonprofits. The folks that we work with are doing what we call a philanthropy plus approach. So they've got political giving, impact investment, research and development dollars, supply chain funding, in-kind product donation, talent acquisition opportunities, like thinking about all the ways that a business or a family with resources could flex to say, hey, we've got a big goal to, support growth in this downtown corridor, or impact healthy food access, or, whatever sort of those large goals are. We work with organizations and individuals who have a number of tools in their toolkit. They've probably already thought about this and, have hit some walls, and they really want to reorient the way that they think about the whole picture. And as we say, we help them dream it, we help them build it, and we help them love it. So for some of our clients, we're doing one of those things. For some of them, we're doing everything. They become a retainer partner and we work with them on a day in, day out basis. Yeah. But really, it's this idea of the world needs fixing. Mm-hmm. We all need to make sure that those that are deploying generosity are 10xing, 100xing the value of that work. And we want to help those doers and donors effectively deploy that generosity. And I would say that the second piece is that we do a tremendous amount of measurement and management of data. Yes. So the chapter one is organizing everything, getting it rolling. That's critical that you set the right course. But the other thing our firm specializes in is real sort of detailed, granular engagement with partners. Those may be politicians, they may be academicians, they may be nonprofits, they may be community members on a block, but making sure that the work is working and that we didn't have some beautiful idea that didn't actually transpire. We want the work to be meaningful. And so we spend a lot of time in the weeds, reiterating and making sure we hit our targets.
Yeah, I like that. And I do some work in the nonprofit world, and that word impact that you brought up, that's really what it is all about. It is about the impact in our communities, in our world. That's what we're all striving to do in that space. And yes, you have to measure it. You have to know it. How do you know if you're having the impact you really want to have if you're not measuring what that impact is? Like, I think that just makes incredible sense. And I think about, the women that listen to this show, they're doing what they are doing, whether it's a service or a product, because they want to have impact. 100%. And I love that. I think that's such a great, powerful word.
Thank you. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I just love it. Okay, so Emily's already taken my leadership style quiz, and we're going to talk next about leading in this impactful space. If you want to take the quiz, there's a link in the show notes. You can go right now, go to the website, highvoltageleadership.ca. There's a little orange button at the top of the page that says, take the quiz. You can do it right now. Emily, it takes what, like 5 minutes? Like, it's no
5 minutes.
5 minutes. You're going to have a little fun. You're going to find out something about yourself. And I also include some top tips, how to be a better leader. You can action those right now in the way that you're leading in your life and your business. And I do that on purpose because we lead from within. We lead in all sorts of ways. So tell us a little bit more about how you lead in your own business and in this really important space, Emily.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to hear any insights that you have based on the quiz.
Yeah, totally.
So, taking the quiz, first of all, I'll say it's really fun. I I went home that night and talked about it with my family, with my family at the dinner table. Like it's a fun way to think about how you lead within an organization, but also how you lead within, whether it be your family, how, your roommates, neighborhood, whoever it is that you break bread with on a regular basis, how you show up in that space.
Yeah.
I found to be really consistent. The leader that I am at work is definitely the leader that I am at home, which I thought was interesting.
Interesting.
But all this to say, I'm a coach, according to the quiz.
Love it.
Which is not surprising to me, but was, interesting to see kind of come through in the way that the questions got answered. And I'll say, we've got a small but mighty team. I have, 4 team members. They're all amazing. Most of them are early career. And I specifically bring them on into this work in a way that expects them to launch beyond our organization. As we talked about at the top of the show, I really believe in this space.
Yeah.
Also know that everybody who does this work, we need them to be as ambitious as possible. So I feel like by helping to train, mentor, grow talent at Ethos, and then send them on their way to other in-house roles or other firms or agencies, if we can embed in them this, optimism, ambition, soul that we really try to embody, that's a big piece of our work that's not client facing, but is community facing and is hopefully world benefiting. So that to me is the kind of apex of why we do what we do, is to help spread the gospel of making this work be more powerful and more impactful. On a very granular basis, like that's super lofty, but on a very granular basis, that means slowing down. That means taking the opportunity after we close a client call or after we finish a client report to make sure that people have the ability to ask questions, double click on things that didn't make sense. Our work can be super jargony, and sometimes you have to just live in that when you're in the moment with a client or in the moment with, authoring something that has to go out the door. I always try to take the opportunity to peel back the onion and say, hey, like, I just want to make sure that this decision made sense, or the way that we position this made sense. So having that kind of like learning, nurturing environment as an expectation gives the space for my team to say, hey, can we grab 10 minutes on the back end? I just want to understand where this is coming from. And that's part of the culture of our organization that I think speaks to the coaching piece, for sure. And then, the other sort of most important piece is giving people opportunity to have runway. But and maybe this is kind of like the mom in me, but not enough ecosystem where they feel alone, right? I think that to me is like the coaches on the bench. They're right there. They're watching. They're helping you kind of iterate the plays, and always trying to be proximate but not micromanagey is where I'd like to sit as a leader.
I really love the way you have articulated all of that. Because I think one of the most important jobs we have as leaders is to create other leaders. And we can't do that if we don't give that intention, if we don't give that space, if we don't approach it from a very coach-like perspective, which is, I'm not here to solve the problem. I'm here to work with you to understand what are the options, and let's find the right solution and get you to execute on it. Like that's so valuable. And you're right. It just sets people free to explore. It gives them space, but guardrails along the way. And then we do set other people on a trajectory to build the lives and the careers and the businesses or whatever that they really want to have. Right. I really love that. And I can imagine having young people, early in their careers in your business creates so much energy for that.
100%. And, as discussed, this work has a lot of social value. There's a lot of optimism and excitement that comes. It's, just sort of a natural part of our day to day, and being able to bring that energy and have that be animated by somebody's passion is super exciting. So, we'll often check in. Not everybody works on everything, right? The way that the pie gets split up. But if there's something that I know someone's really passionate about from an issue area perspective, we'll make sure that person is on that project, because the work's going to be better, right? And, that passion is going to come through, but that also is going to light their candle for the whatever else is going on that week, that month, et cetera.
You know, it's been so interesting coming out of COVID, because we've heard a lot that Gen Z doesn't want to work. They're really lazy, right? People don't seem to want to work after COVID. No, they do. And maybe this is naive, but I actually believe that people do want to do great work. But that's the problem, is that the younger generations in our workplace want to work the way that's meaningful for them. They want to do work with purpose that fuels their passion. They're not interested in your crappy old 9-to-5 corporate lawyer, banker, whatever job. Right? They're just not. They're not interested in that anymore. And you don't get to dictate the rules to them. But if you create workplaces where they can fuel their passion, they'll do incredible work for you. They're really smart. They're very innovative. They will take risks, but you have to present the space for them to do that. Now, that's me. I don't know. Argue with me if you want, but I think that's really important.
I think it's right. And, we see that a lot with our consulting. I mean, we're working with big companies, small companies, multinational companies. And one of the reasons that this philanthropy plus approach, I think, is successful and is being adopted at a higher clip is that leaders understand that they need to integrate purpose into the larger workflow. Whether you're an accountant or you're in the CSR department, or frontline warehouse manager, you need to understand how your role, if you're a Gen Z, maybe even millennial member of the workforce, you need to understand how you're contributing to the larger purpose. And that work can be connected to social purpose, but I also think that work can be connected to product purpose, or feeling like you're part of the success of the company. Like people want to feel like they're spending their days in a way that is additive. And I can think of a coffee shop in my neighborhood. The fact that the folks at that coffee shop understand that they're making the absolute best product, that it's delicious, that people love it. Yes, the beans are from somewhere that is really thoughtfully sourced, and there's other things that are like social connections.
Yes.
But what really people are motivated by at that space is that it's the best. And it just is and it's fun to be part of a team that is shooting for excellence. So the more everyone on that team feels integrated into that excellence, I think the happier, more successful, more sustainable your workforce is.
Yeah, I 100% agree. When people have line of sight, when they can understand what they're working towards, it makes the work more meaningful and they can bring their whole self to it. I mean, also, as someone who does a lot of organizational design and culture development work, you have to create the space. You have to create a culture where people feel safe to really dive in to those things, to really experiment, to really feel ownership. And when you combine those two things, the purpose with the culture, you ignite incredible things from your team, big or small. Doesn't need to we're not talking 10,000 employee scale. This can be the 5 people that work for you in your home-based business. And I think when you do that, when you give people the information and you give them the North Star, you get all the horses pulling in the same direction. That's powerful. That's powerful.
For sure. And it's where you want to spend time, right? I mean, to the leaders listening to this podcast, being able to go home at the end of the day, whether it's 4 people or 40 people or whatever it is, who were activated, actualized, showed up, that's a place that you want to sit. And when you go and take your shoes off at the end of the day, that's such a gratifying feeling to have built that culture and to be part of that momentum.
Yeah, it really is. I think that's the thing, is it pays you back intrinsically, because you get to feel the impact of how you showed up as a leader. And you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be great, right? Nobody's expecting you to be awesome all the time. That's not realistic. But you get to feel like you did the right thing for the right person, the right client, in the right moment. And that you can feel really deeply satisfied by.
For sure. And I mean, well, I think we'll go into this too. None of us can be awesome all the time. That happens. Absolutely. But we can always strive to be ourselves, our best selves. And that doesn't mean you stick the landing on awesome, but it does mean I can show up today as the best version of Emily even giving all of these, frustrating underlying circumstances that are outside of my control. I think that to me is my North Star as a leader. Like, how do I stick the landing on being like the best version of me, given all the balls in the air that happened on a given day or a given week?
I find it so interesting because I work a lot. I work a lot with female entrepreneurs, but I work with female business leaders all over the place. And we do get a little hung up on, these are the things I have to do to be a great leader. And actually, the most important thing you can do to be a great leader is just be truly authentic. Like, who are you as a leader? I ask women that in a coaching session, who are you as a leader? What does it mean to you to be a great leader? And they spout off something they read in a book or did at a workshop. And I say to them, is that really who you are? Like, that's great that Simon Sinek said that. I think he's amazing. But is that relevant for you? Does that really line up with the things you care about the most, the values you have?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't really know. I'm like, well, then we need to talk about that. Because you can't be a great leader if you're not really grounded and authentic and being who you are. What are the things that you do awesome, and how do you do more of that? Because that's what's going to create an impact on your team. That's what's going to grow a really remarkable, caring, safe, empowering culture. So I love that you brought that up, because I could quite sincerely talk about that all afternoon. That's the stuff that gets me up in the morning.
I love that.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So the inevitable question, where have you screwed it up, made mistakes, made missteps? And what have you learned from those? Because that's what's really key here.
Yeah. And, any day ending in Y, I'm sure we could pick up, something that, that didn't go awry, or that didn't go perfectly, rather.
Totally.
So I'll say at the beginning, when I first started the business, I was so nervous about making it work. I took all the work that came my way.
Yes.
And if I had to do it over again, I don't know that I would have the courage to make a different decision. But if I had to pinpoint something that I did that I would advise someone else to not do, it would be that. Through that process. And, it's interesting. I started the company without a name. So the company is now named Ethos Giving. Before, it was kind of, Emily Kane Miller hanging her shingle.
Right.
I had a newborn, whatever.
Yeah.
And some of my early clients, even though I thought that I had been clear about what we do, what our services are, the level of authenticity and kind of genuine intent that we bring to the work, like we're working with nonprofits, we're creating value for community.
Yeah.
That I thought was super clear. Turned out for some of our early clients wasn't what they were looking for. And it's not to say that anybody wanted anything nefarious. It was just like their focus was on P&L. Is this, community benefit, nonprofit donation, et cetera, going to help me sell more of X?
Right.
And when we sat down 3-4 months into the project, and I gave them the report that I believed was the work product, which had been spelled out in the contract, they, essentially it flipped to like, this is all lovely, Emily, but like, we're tagging it to XYZ thing, and we haven't seen sales go up in the last 3 months. Right. And that was a big aha moment to me, that I needed to think differently about how we presented ourselves, how we introduced our work. It's why I named the firm Ethos, because I wanted to signal, it's my, my bat signal to the world that when you come to engage with us, we have a certain POV, we have a certain point of view. And if that's misaligned, no worries, no judgment, but we're not going to be your people. Like, our focus and our KPIs are on community development, impact, value. And certainly I believe those things will be good for business. I believe you'll sell more things. I believe you'll have good talent pipeline engagement, et cetera, et cetera. Like, all of that is real. And it's also not the primary reason that you work with us. So that was a really important learning, and I think is transferable no matter what your business is as an entrepreneur. The second thing is really around training. So because in my sector, and this may be similar for some of the folks listening, there is no professional standard for the work that we do. Like if you become a dentist, you go to dental school. If you become a teacher, there's an educational pathway, there's tests, and everybody sort of leaves an accreditation program with some
and a level of competency that you can measure. You can directly measure from whatever certification or diploma or blah, blah, blah. Yes.
Precisely. And so again, because our work has heart and soul, and there's all these amazing people that I've met, when I thought about bringing people in, when I first started the firm, I had just a much looser sense of the kinds of training and background that would best serve this firm and the sort of, work product that we need to build. And so number one, I've been able to distill and sort of hire people that are better fits off the bat, because it's better for the firm, better for them, better for me. And have sort of kind of made up a roadmap of where I think those people are most likely to come from. And it turns out, it turns out for our work, that's probably coming from government or, nonprofit, or a place where there was sort of a constituent service mindset.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is really dialing in our training. Yeah. So we've got, books that we ask people to read, modules that we ask people to complete, articles that we, share on the front end, and then a bit of like a lunch and learn back and forth. Again, we're a 5-person team, so this can be very bespoke. But really making sure that the things that I assume are in the zeitgeist are not necessarily in other people's, global understandings, even though they're bright and worldly. And so when I reference something or I lean into a concept or a philosophy, making sure that I've ensured that my team is on the same page and that they're clear on what I mean when I say X or Y.
Yeah. You know what? Especially in the beginning. So I'm going to use sort of the HRE word, the onboarding process. And you're not alone. I hear lots and lots of people, guests on the show, but also clients that I work with and others that I network with, the talent, finding the right talent, getting them into your business and getting them off to a great start. That's how I'll sort of summarize that. It's absolutely critical, especially now. The war on talent is real. There are more jobs and fewer people. It's just that simple. It's been coming for decades, but nobody was listening to us in HR. We've been talking about this at every conference I've been to for the last 15 years. And suddenly after COVID, it's a surprise. I don't know. That's a whole nother podcast. But I love how you articulated that, like really honing in on not just skills, competencies, experience, but the fit piece and where they come and deeply understanding who are the right people. You can train skills. If they have the basics or even close, you can train skills. You cannot train mindset nearly as easily, right? You cannot train some of those cultural pieces that are going to be important as they work in your business. Or if you need someone that thinks differently, right? Who can be that divergent thinker in your business. And really understanding that before you ever go to market saves so much headache and heartache on the back end. And it does. It can be an iterative process, or you can hire someone like me who can help you figure out faster. But that's, again, another podcast. But that I think is really important, and then how you get them off to a great start. Because if people don't come into our business and get the right information at the right time, they get lost in conversations. They feel a real lack of confidence. Oh, the boss is talking about this concept or theory, and I don't know what it is, but I think I should know, but I don't really know. And holy, now I don't know what I'm doing. Am I really meant? Oh my gosh, am I meant to be here? Am I a good fit? Are they going to fire me? Like, that's the thought process that happens. So I love that you give them books and articles and modules and things, drip it in so that they feel like, hey, I'm getting the right information at just the right time. And I'm up to speed and I'm learning and I'm growing. Look at how they're investing in me already. What a great place to grow someone in your business. Emily, I love it. I'm like, you're preaching to the converted over here.
Awesome. I figured that would land.
Yeah, I love it. And I think those are really valuable lessons for anyone that is listening. You are way better off to do some of that legwork up front, right? Spend a little bit of time. Don't use the breath test for hiring or the pulse test. If they have a pulse, they're hired. That is not going to serve you in the end. Spend a little time, figure that out, get deep with that.
And I think being strategic, onboarding makes it feel like it has to be something that happens the first 2 weeks or whatever it is. There are some things that you can't learn until month 2 because reading that book on week 1, there's no context. It's not helpful. So, being strategic about when you let somebody, get that resource, or it's already calendared, but like, don't even worry about it until September or whatever. So that they know that it's coming. They know that investment is bona fide, and also that there's not pressure and that it's being done in a way that's fostering their best development.
100%. You can't just overload them all at once, because that has the opposite effect of making them feel welcome and like they belong and being invested in. That makes them feel overwhelmed, and totally erodes confidence. That's when people leave, right?
Yeah.
They exit the business pretty quickly because they think, I can't handle this. And so you're right. You can drip it in. Onboarding should actually take somewhere from 3 to 6 months. And when I tell my clients that, sometimes they think I've lost my marbles. I'm a small business. I got to get this rolling. Yes, you do. But if you want to keep this person long-term, you can't give them all of the information, all of the accountability, and all of the responsibility in the first 10 days. They're not going to stay. They're immediately going to be looking for a new job. That's what they're going to do.
Could not agree more.
I totally love it. We are absolutely speaking the same language here. And it's made this time go by so quickly. I feel like we could fill 2 or 3 more podcasts, Emily, for sure. But thank you. I really appreciate you being a guest here today. And I really love the work that you're doing. It's brilliant.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And it's been so fun chatting.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure. Thanks again. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. I sure hope you enjoyed listening as much as I did hosting this conversation. And if you did enjoy today's episode, would you do me a favor? Would you give the episode a 5-star review and share it with all of your friends? I would really appreciate that. I've got a goal to impact 1,000 female founders, and with your help, we can really amplify this message. Thanks again for being a part of the show, and don't forget to connect with me and all of my guests on Instagram @HighVolt Leadership. We'll see you next Friday.